Welcome to Oakland Connection. I'm Tim Burns. This spring I took my kids to Free Comic Book Day at Warp 9 Comics in Clawson, and we picked up this book, MouseGuard. And while I was at the comic book store, a lot of people were talking about how great the MouseGuard comics are and how we have such a great artist who's behind them, who's a local man. He's from Ferndale, and I'm pleased to have Dave Peterson here to talk a little bit about his career. Thanks for being on the show today, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what MouseGuard is.
MouseGuard's a medieval fantasy comic. It's all ages, so I have just as many fans who are 4 as I do who are 70.
Okay.
And it's a kind of it's been described as Stuart Little meets Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
It's just a fantasy adventure with mice with swords.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about how the Free Comic Book Day came about.
Well, Free Comic Book Day is a really great promotion for comic book stores and publishers to try to welcome in new readers and let new readers try something that they've maybe never tried before.
Okay.
My publisher, Archaea, has been participating for a couple of years now, putting out a free book to try to introduce new readers into all the books that Archaea produces.
Okay.
MouseGuard is one of the more popular titles at Archaea. I'm fortunate enough to have that. So they asked me to kind of be the cover and the main story in the book.
Okay. Yeah, and these were published nationally, right? Given out the free comic books.
Yeah. The Free Comic Book Day is a national and maybe even international. It might get up into Canada as well. Okay.
And talking about international, MouseGuard's really taken off. You have an audience not just here in Michigan, but not just around the United States, but around the world, don't you?
Yeah. I'm really fortunate that the style of work that I'm doing has that kind of appeal, and I have just as many. I have fans in Germany and England and France, Spain. Okay. It's been translated in I think about 7 languages now.
Oh, great! Now tell us a little bit about the different formats. I see we have a couple here on the table here. We have a hardcover, and then we also have the smaller editions.
Sure. The individual issues come out with what you're holding in your hand there. It's a 24-page chapter, kind of like an old-time movie serial. It just gets you warmed up and then leaves you with a cliffhanger at the end. Okay. 6 of those individual issues then go into a collected hardcover that wraps up that particular story arc. Okay. I've had 2 of those come out so far, fall and winter. Okay. With the one that you have an issue form coming out early next year called The Black Axe.
Okay. And that'll be in the hardcover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have a role-playing game here?
Yes. The fans seem to be interested in the idea of a MouseGuard role-playing game almost from the beginning. I was an old-time Dungeons & Dragons player, and so that was something that interested me. And when the fans kind of started asking about it, I thought, well, that would be great if it ever came about. And Luke Crane, the gentleman who did the game design and wrote the book, approached me, and we talked about game design, and I realized he was the right guy to bring it to life.
Sure. And what is some of your inspiration in creating the storylines and the characters?
I've always enjoyed all ages stories and animal stories, things like Aesop's Fables and Wind in the Willows. And then this was just kind of a combination. MouseGuard's a combination of my love of Michigan and our climate and our landscape,
right.
And then things that the kind of high adventures that I would imagine myself having when we would play Dungeons and Dragons or various role-playing games.
Right. And the characters, it's all from an animal's perspective, but almost as if they were humans themselves. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they walk on hind legs. I try to make them as animalistic as possible so that you really do believe that it's a mouse that has all the properties of being a mouse. But I have to be able to get them to be able to walk on 2 legs so that they can use their hands to do things, and they walk and talk. And so there's a little bit of anthropomorphizing going on. But for the most part, yeah, they're supposed to be very much still little squeaking mice.
Now, when people think of working on comic books, I think a lot of them might think that you need to work in Manhattan and New York, or maybe out in California and LA, or San Diego where Comic-Con is. But you're able to do a lot of stuff from here in Michigan?
Oh yeah, I'm able to do all of my actual producing here. I could do it anywhere. I choose to do it here because I love Michigan, and this is where I want to live.
Right. And so what are some other things you have coming up in regards to your comic book career here?
I have a couple more appearances. When I do get out and travel, I do have to go nationwide and sometimes even overseas to help promote the book and meet with fans and do all that kind of thing. So I have a convention coming up in October at the in Dearborn. It's called Detroit Fan Fair. I've got another October date in New York for the New York Comic Convention, and I'm going to be going overseas to the Leeds Comic Festival called Thought Bubble in November.
Great. And if someone wanted to purchase one of these books, do you go to the local bookstore, your local comic book store? Can you go online? Is there digital editions? I know that's starting to become more popular with things like Comixology and stuff like that online.
All of those are correct. You can go to your local comic book store and get individual issues or the collected editions. The collected editions are available through online stores and big box retailers. And then now, digital's breaking through and becoming an actual viable way that people are reading comics.
Okay. Now, I think people think of when you're drawing comics, you get a big notepad out and you take the ink pen and you're scrolling things out. How is that actually in reality now we're more of a digital age? You still do a lot of the hand drawings, or do you use computers more? Can you kind of walk us through how you do a scene?
Sure. I do a little bit of a mix of both. I'm still very traditional in that I like using pencils on paper. I like the feel of the lead on the paper. But I'll do several sketches of the characters or the panel or page that I'm drawing. For what I think it should be, and then I'll scan that and put it into a template on my computer that already has all the panel lines laid out. And that way I can resize individual characters or make any corrections if I drew somebody's hand too small or somebody's head too big. I can fix all of that. I'll then print out that corrected edition and put it on a light box with my final comic paper surface on top of it. The light box allows me to see through the comic paper down to the rough, and then I use ink pens to ink in all the details and come up with the final art.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that comic books actually are an original American art form, kind of like jazz was created here. So have comic books. What have been some of the things that have inspired you to actually get into this career path that you're in now?
Well, I loved Eastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles when I was about 11. That was the original. That was before the cartoon had really come out, and I was reading X-Men around that same time too. And but there was something about Ninja Turtles, seeing the names Eastman and Laird above the story, and that the turtles just seemed like such a weird weird creation that I thought. It's obvious that these are two guys drawing this, where the X-Men just seemed like Marvel turned to crank and X-Men comics came out. And that seemed like a viable career, and I love storytelling. So this seemed like a really neat option for combining words and pictures.
Now, did you go specialize in any programs at school, or did you just start trying to get internships? How did you kind of break into the field?
I went to school for fine art. I originally thought I was going to do children's book illustration because when you look at the major superhero kind of comics, that's not really what my artwork looks like. And as much as I tried to make my artwork look like that, I never really could. So I thought I was going to do children's books. And then a friend of mine said, why don't you come to the local comic convention in Novi with me and set up? And I said, well, I don't really have a book or anything. He said, that's okay, neither do I. And just from there, I started putting out samples of the kind of ideas that I had, and people seemed interested in MouseGuard, so it went from there. Okay. And, have you won any awards or had any critical praise from anyone for the MouseGuard books so far? Yeah, I've won a few industry awards that are pretty special. The Sheldorf Award is given here in the Detroit area. Sheldorf is one of the original creators of the San Diego Comic Convention, but he also had a convention here in Detroit called Fan Fair that's recently been revived, and with that they decided to name an award in his honor, and last year I won a few Sheldorf Awards. Thank you. And also the big one that's kind of considered to be the Oscar of comics, if there is such an equivalent, the Eisner Award, and I've managed to fool people into giving me 3 of those. Oh, wow, that sounds like a lot of critical praise in for the book there. And, looking at the success you've had now and be able to stay in Oakland County here and live in Ferndale and work out of the city in your home, sounds like a great
thing that people might want to aspire to, especially if you're younger and looking for a new career, and art's something that's interests you and important to you.
Sure, and with any kind of book production, you can do it wherever you live, just as long as you have a way to scan it and get it off to the publisher.
Right. So what tips would you give to someone, say they're watching this on TV now, and maybe they're in middle school or high school, or kind of trying to decide what career path they want to get into? If they want to follow in your footsteps, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to make sure they draw every day.
Okay.
To keep drawing, don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of times that you're going to get frustrated with your own work and not feel like it's going the way you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's natural.
Right.
And that it's okay to copy the people that you admire, to look at their work and try to copy it or mimic what they do, but there is a point where you're going to have to stop doing that, and that's kind of what separates the adults from the children in art, is that you at some point come up with your own artistic voice.
Right. Okay. Good information there. I'm sure some people will benefit from that. One of the things I liked about your artistic, again, and we brought that up a little bit as you look through the books, is that, like you said, it really has almost a children's feel to it. And, what I like about with my kids is it's somewhat of an adventure story, but it's not too graphic or too dark to not scare with them. But yet it's still enough of a mature storyline that I'm not interested in.
Right, you're
something
not
that I can really sit down and share with my kids and say, hey, let's sit down and enjoy this book together, and I'm just not reading it to them. We're all three of us are sitting there reading it together and having a good time.
Thank you. I like the idea of all ages stories working in that way, that the kid might not be picking up on everything, but they're getting the important parts, and at the same time the adult is sticking with it. They're interested, and it's a genuine interest, and not just I'm kind of reading this because my kid wants me to read this.
Right. Now, I also have seen through your website that, and I know you're on things like Twitter and social media, that you also do commission work at the different shows, and sometimes even through online if people are interested. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, pretty much it's just through conventions. When I'm at home, I really need to be working on MouseGuard books. I seem to be perpetually behind with where I'm supposed to be. But when I'm at conventions, I can't work on pages for the books, obviously, so I do take on commissions. And it's fun to be able to have that connection with the fans. I'm doing a piece of artwork that's specifically for them, and a lot of times they're giving me some kind of direction for what they want. Okay,
and that's something they can frame up in their den or
Sure. And I get a lot of people asking me to do things like Mice in Love or at a wedding or something like that they end up using as part of their wedding invitations, or it's obviously an important part of their life, and that's a special privilege.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us on the show today. And just to wrap up, if someone wants to check you out online, tell us a little bit about where they can find you on Twitter or on your website.
You can find me at MouseGuard.net is the main site for MouseGuard, and I'm at MouseGuard on Twitter.
All right, great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And keep up the great work. We really enjoy it, and we're going to look forward to seeing your future editions of MouseGuard.
Thank you.
I'm Tim Burns. You're watching Oakland Connection, and we'll be right back.
In the event of a big emergency, and I'm at work, my daughter's school is 2 blocks away. That would be a very convenient meeting place for all of us.
We'd meet up at his parents' house.
A meeting place? Not really.
My husband would definitely pick up the girls from school.
I would want to make sure that she has the girls or is on her way to get the girls.
I know that there's a plan, but I don't know what the plan is.
Hi, I'm Tim Burns, and you're watching Oakland Connection. I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Devang Doshi from Beaumont Hospital and Joan Horton from the Clawson DDA. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Doctor, we've had you on the show before to talk about children's food allergies, and I thought it might be nice for you to join us again because Halloween's coming up, and for some people, that could be a scary time with kids if they have allergies. And if you were like myself, before my daughter had food allergies, I really was ignorant to some of the dangers and problems, and so it might be important for people as they're getting ready to get those Halloween treats to know what they might want to be careful about giving out to the kids who come knocking at their door.
Yeah, I mean, I think today in this time and age of food allergy awareness, and I think as it becomes more prevalent in the community, I think if we're able to provide safe treats for all people, all patients, all individuals that have food allergies in general, and make sure that we're providing a safe environment for our children to be able to go and enjoy a nice evening out with their family, I think is really important. What we're seeing, though, is it's really, really challenging, you know, especially if your family has not ever been exposed to or dealt with food allergies with anybody in their family. It's really hard to know what happens, and more importantly, how safe we really have to be. So I think, especially when we get into times where Halloween comes into play and we're into a beautiful time of the year, we really want to make sure that if we've got children that have food allergies, we have to be very, very diligent in making sure that we're avoiding, you know, any possibility that they may have an adverse reaction or possible contamination with any of the foods.
Now, I know I get hay fever real bad, and I get all stuffed up, and I'm just miserable, have headaches, and, you know, you can start to cough. So I think a lot of times when people hear about allergies, they think the same thing. Oh, well, if they do have a reaction, you know, maybe they'll be a little miserable, but it's not going to kill them. But actually, it can be pretty dangerous, can't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's one of the most difficult concepts, and I think biggest misconception of food allergies is that a little won't do much. It's just going to cause maybe skin symptoms, watery, itchy eyes, and that's absolutely incorrect. A small amount of protein from a peanut or a tree nut or something that a child or an adult is allergic to can be life-threatening. Now, one example is if you're allergic to bees, people always are very terrified of being around bees because they know if they get stung and they've had a reaction in the past, it could be life-threatening. Well, I think the same thing holds true for people that have peanut and tree nut allergies or food allergies in general. It really doesn't take a lot, and if they're very, very allergic or highly sensitized to those foods and they have an accidental ingestion or contact, these things can be equally as dangerous and equally as life-threatening.
Right. And you have an office here in Royal Oak, and you also work out of the hospital in Royal Oak for Beaumont. And, you know, have you seen locally, is this a growing and big problem?
This is huge. I mean, we see it both within the hospital system. You know, it's unfortunate, but we get several ER visits on a regular basis with accidental food allergy reactions. We see the same thing in the outpatient clinic setting, both in the subspecialty clinic at Beaumont Children's Hospital as well as in my own office in Royal Oak. The same exact thing where people accidentally get into contact, or inadvertently they may have never known that they've had an allergy to a certain food and have had a reaction, and then they come in as a new patient. So these are things, you know, this is a life-altering problem when parents are faced with dealing with a child with food allergies. The first thing we sit down and tell them that this is going to be something that's going to change and alter the rest of your lives as you continue to care for your child.
Well, I know at Halloween, when I was younger, that was one of my favorite times of the year. I remember sitting together with my friends a few days before Halloween. We'd actually draw up maps to figure out where the best candy spots were, and we time it out so we get to all those houses before it got too late. And I was sharing with Joan Horton here from the Clawson DA the frustration I was having as a dad, having enjoyed that so much and feeling that to some extent we were being excluded from events because of the dangers that my daughter faced and, you know, risks that we didn't want to take for her own benefit. And I want to applaud Joan because she really stepped up and she said, you know, that's not right. We should do something so that everybody can enjoy Halloween and not feel like they're in danger or not comfortable. And Joan's going to talk a little bit about the food allergy-friendly Halloween event that the Clawson DDA is doing based upon that conversation.
That's right. This is our fifth year to do trick-or-treating in downtown Clawson. It's the second year that we're doing it as an allergy-friendly event. And we did that because of the conversation with you, Tim, having two children, twins, one not having allergies and the other that does, and hearing about some of those troubles. We thought, how unfair is that? You can't go out. I went out with my brothers and sisters on Halloween, and the same thing. We, you know, ran house to house. How exciting to think that one couldn't go would be devastating. So this, I learned a lot. Not having any contact before with food allergies. My only experience is a cousin highly allergic to bees. So this was a real learning experience for us, and I think we had a great event, a wonderful turnout. The children who didn't have allergies didn't find it objectionable. That was still candy. I don't think but we didn't hear from anybody that said, "Oh, that wasn't any good." It was still a lot of sugar and more candy than I thought would be allowable. I thought it would be much more restricting. So it was really a learning for us.
Right.
And a lot more toys. We substituted not just candy, but little trinkets and other things. So it was a good time.
And it worked out well enough. We're doing it again this year, right?
We're doing it again this year on Saturday, September 27th.
October 27th?
October 27th, yes. There is no preview in September.
There we go.
There will be an event October 27th on Saturday from 12 to 3. It'll be downtown Clawson. They'll go from businesses to business. And Dr. Doshi will be there, as he did last year, had a tent set up, and we hope to even have a few more people out on the passing out candy and enjoying the event.
And that is the Saturday right before Halloween.
Right before Halloween, yep.
Okay, great. And, I think what's great about the event, too, as well, it's helping a good cause. It's also introducing people to what's really turning into a great little downtown with restaurants and shops, and encourage people to stop by and check out some of the things while you're doing your trick-or-treating, and maybe after the event down the road, come back and do some more shopping or enjoy eating down Clawson.
Learn about downtown Clawson.
So
it's really a nice family-friendly little town. We want more people to come see it.
And you encourage the kids to dress up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the fun. In fact, earlier in the month we even have a costume swap going on. So,
And when is that taking place?
There is a 2 weeks set aside where they can turn in costumes, pick up a ticket, and then come for swap day. And I'm sorry I don't have that with me right now.
But I'm sure we can find it on your website, right?
You can, downtownclawson.com.
All right, great. And in regards to Joan talking about the food still tasting good, I think there's a perception that if it's healthy for you or if it's not, it's safe for the food allergies and it must be bad to eat. But that's not real. That's more of a stereotype, isn't it, Dr. Doshi?
It is. I mean, there's always going to be alternative foods that we can find and to make it fun for everybody. And I think having events like this in a wonderful community that's really opening up and addressing this growing epidemic, really, and increasing the awareness, I think, and providing a very safe environment for all children. Doesn't necessarily have to be anyone that is dealing with food allergies. People that just want to come and see what it's about, learn about the city, learn about food allergies, meet and enjoy a fun-filled day and dress up with other children and go and get some fun treats and things that will be hypoallergenic or at least allergy-friendly.
Right.
I think it would be it's a wonderful event, and I think the more that we raise awareness with this in communities like Clawson, I think is going to be, it's great. It's wonderful for families that are dealing with this, and the more support that we're able to provide families that are going through this, I think is a really, really good positive note to send.
Now, for those people that are just going out trick-or-treating in their neighborhood, or maybe going to something like the Zubu at the Detroit Zoo, or I think Greenfield Village has an open trick-or-treat event, those types of things. As a parent of someone with a food allergy, what tips would you give them to kind of make sure their kids are safe when they're going out and about?
Yeah, I think if you've got a child that has food allergies and you are taking them out trick-or-treating, I think it's really important to make sure that a responsible grown-up is going out with all of the medications and an adrenaline device in case there is an inadvertent reaction or something unexpected, a flashlight, and if the child is experiencing any symptoms, they really need to be able to communicate that with the parent or caretaker so that we can intervene earlier. You know, it's always hard to take a child away from a very fun day or evening. I mean, I remember Halloween vividly as a child and looking forward to it, much like you did.
Right.
And you know, to have somebody have to stop, you know, because they're having a reaction or an issue, the child is really not going to want to do that unless they're really forced to. So I think just being careful, having all the medications in place, and having a responsible grown-up, flashlight, and making sure that we're being as safe as possible, I think is very important.
And say, you know, you haven't had experiences like it before my daughter had her incident. You know, I really hate to say it, I was ignorant about the issues with food allergies, and they at times have been a little bit inconsiderate to people myself. Now that I've experienced it, I'm trying to be more considerate, not just on this issue, but other issues that I see people are dealing with. But say you're going out to buy that trick-or-treat candy for your own house, or you're preparing things to give out. What are some advice you might give to people who want to be considerate good neighbors to all the kids in the neighborhood?
I think if you can take that into consideration, I think that's a great message to send. Provide treats that are allergy safe or allergy friendly, and really to try to avoid the most common allergens would be peanuts, tree nuts. If you can avoid those two things, and then make sure that if there's milk, eggs, wheat, and soy, those make up pretty much the most common food allergies. Now, granted, you will see other things. We're seeing a lot of legume allergy and sesame allergy nowadays, but at least if you can avoid those things and stick to sugar-based candy, hard candy that does not processed or manufactured in a facility that also handles other allergy products that contain milk or nuts.
And let me take a step back on that, because I think that's important to realize. Contamination is as much of an issue as ingredients. Isn't that a problem?
It is. I mean, if you really want to do it justice and be most considerate for your own family members as well as other people, I think if you avoid those things that have labels that say they may contain or are processed in a facility, I think that's the only way we can almost guarantee that somebody's not going to get sick from candy that we're handing out.
Right. And Dr. Doshi, if someone might have some questions or want to find out some more information, do you have a website they can visit?
Yeah, foodallergy.org is with the Food Allergy Anaphylaxis Network, and they've got some wonderful information on their website. They also have a handout section where you can print off PDF information on how to handle food allergies, information for parents, information on how to read labels, and for schools. So I think those things and having a plan in place, I think, is very important.
Okay. And Joan, for more information about this event or about downtown Clawson in general, where can they reach out? I know you gave us the website earlier, but...
downtownclawson.com, and there's a Facebook site that you can access from that page also. So.
Okay. And if someone wants to volunteer, are you asking for any help?
Oh, we would love help. We thrive on volunteers.
I spent last year holding a stop sign in the middle of the street so kids were safe going back and forth.
That's right.
Everyone, I'd like to trick-or-treat with my kids this year, so if anyone wants to come out and help hand that sign off to them, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, we are looking for crossing guards.
Okay. And I'm working with you a little bit on the campaign, too, and I'm out there recruiting, and you can check out some information on the event on my websites and Facebook too. So thank you both for coming out and sharing some important information, and I'm looking forward to having us do the second annual allergy-friendly trick-or-treat event.
I hope we have wonderful weather for it.
Yes, yes. And a good turnout, I think, would be wonderful.
And just to wrap up too, I just thought of this, but you don't have to live in Clawson to participate, correct?
Oh, absolutely not. No, we want everyone to come and see how wonderful Clawson is.
So come and explore Clawson, learn about a great little town with a big heart, and have a good time, and especially if you have someone with a food allergy. We want Halloween to be a fun time for everyone. You've been watching Oak Cliff Connection, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.